to be a coalition, even if it's a hung parliament, after the general election.
I think it is now quite obvious going into the final stretch of this election campaign, and of course they'll tell you otherwise, but neither Ed Miliband nor David Cameron are going to win an outright majority.
So they could run a minority government?
Well, if they choose to do so, maybe that's one of the things. I wouldn't advise it, because I don't think this country would benefit from the instability and uncertainty of having a government which is in office but not in power.
You haven't converted the country to coalition. No, but the country hasn't fallen in love with the idea of coalition. It's not crying out for one. It's not telling those parties they must not run.
I strongly suspect if people, as they will be, if they're focused on the real choice, which is not is David Cameron or Ed Miliband going to go into number 10. One of them will. But who's going to be there with them? Is it going to be David Cameron dancing to the tune of Nigel Farage? Is it Ed Miliband dancing to the tune of Alex Salmond? Or is it the Liberal Democrats doing what we've done over the last half decade?
One of the things that it could be suggested voters don't like about coalition is that documents like this are so much sort of dead forest, needless dead forest. I mean, you've put on the front your priorities for coalition, the red lines. I think we've worked out the code. But all these other pages at the back, therefore, are binnable.
Well, have a look at what happened last time. Last time,
I have done.
Well, OK, you will then recall that 3/4 of the policies in the Liberal Democrat manifesto, not just what was on the front page, but the rest of the manifesto, made its way into the coalition agreement. And
40%. They revisited the numbers, those same academics came back with 40%. And there's loads of things that were in your last manifesto that you weren't able to do.
Same for the Conservatives.
Mansion tax, breaking
Same
up
for the Conservatives, and thank heavens for that.
So why not do the negotiations in public beforehand? Because there's an awful lot of...
I'll tell you why.
Giving politics a good name when it all goes into the back room.
Well, there's a little matter called
democracy.
Democracy. And unlike you, I don't think we should short-circuit the decisions of millions of
voters.
You
can talk about the overlaps more openly.
No, let me explain. In a democracy, we, the politicians, we put our case forward, and people look and they compare and they contrast, they vote, and then we follow the instructions of the British people. It's democracy, it's a good idea, I suggest we stick to it. What you're suggesting is that I now predict the future, I can't, and secondly, that I tell you now how other parties may or may not react to a result of an election which hasn't taken place yet.
If we come to the day after the election, and the two main parties, as we occasionally lapse into calling them, have got the same number of MPs, do you go to the one with the larger share of the vote?
We believe, as Democrats, that the party with the greatest mandate from the British people, even if it doesn't have an outright majority, has the first right to try and assemble a government.
So share of the vote matters.
And there is share of the vote and seats matters, and there is no secret. If they want to talk to us about what our front page priorities are.
If you have a lot less than the 23% of the vote you managed to get last time, you won't have the same power. You won't be asking for the same number of seats, the same number of policies in the coalition agreement. That's fair, isn't it?
We didn't take out a ruler last time and say because you got X number.
But if it's less than half the vote you got last time, and you believe in proportionality,
look,
you can't demand
at the end of the
same
day,
power.
A government needs a majority in the House of Commons to do the things that government says it wants to do. I can't, I'm afraid, beyond that, help you with any further predictions about the future, because guess what? The future is not really for me to predict.
Help me with this one, though. You haven't put the EU referendum, no to an EU referendum, the one the Tories want, on your front page. So that's tradable, isn't it?
Look, the EU referendum, we believe there are clear circumstances where a referendum should take place. We legislated for it with the Conservatives. We've said that for years. We've put it in law.
It's tradable.
No.
You haven't put it on the front page, so it might happen if you were a Deputy Prime Minister again.
No, what I'm saying, since you ask, comparing with the Conservative Party have changed and changed and changed, chameleon-like about their stance on the European referendum. You'll have to ask the Conservatives what their latest position is. I have no idea what the Conservative position on Europe will be next Tuesday, yet alone on May the 8th.
It's coalition or bust for you, isn't it? You're not going to sit on the opposition benches if you're not in government. You're off to do something else for the rest of your life. I laugh
because you keep asking me to make predictions about the future. I'm a campaigning politician who believes passionately that what is right for the country I love is that we don't lurch from one direction to the other. We are tantalisingly close to finally clearing the decks for my kids and grandkids, for the next generation. And I think to do that, we need to anchor the next government in the liberal, compassionate, tolerant centre ground, finish balancing the books, doing so fairly, and that is what you will get if you vote for the Liberal Democrats, come hell or high water.
Gary Gibbon talking to Nick Clegg.